Political corruption is a huge problem around the world, and it's not something you'd be expecting someone to get an award for. But that's exactly what's happened in the case of Russian President Vladimir Putin. A group of journalists based in Europe, known as the Organized Crime and Reporting Project, named Mr. Putin their 2014 Person of the Year. VOA's Jeffrey Young is on the corruption beat for us and tells me what's really behind the designation. Jeff, in naming President Putin Corruption's Person of the Year, what is this group accusing him of?
The Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project is the entity that made this award, if you want to call it that dubious honor. They did this because, in the words of Drew Sullivan, the editor of the OCCRP, he said, Putin has been a real innovator in working with organized crime. He went on to say that he's created a military, industrial, political, criminal complex that furthers Russia's and Putin's personal interest, all one and the same.
I want to bring up a comment that you received on your article, a critical comment, saying that reporting like this only serves to, quote, further inflame tensions between the U.S. and Russia. What's your response to that?
We have to report the truth. When we have facts on the ground, and we have things to present to the people, it is an obligation. This is my job as a journalist. If I know this information, my responsibility is to make this information known. So in response to that, all I can say is, you're dealing with someone who, J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI a half a century ago, characterized the Kremlin as the masters of deceit.
So how does his history and his involvement with the KGB, how does all of that then culminate in this, him being named Corruption's Person of the Year?
It is a vast system of mutual enablement. If I am above you, I deliberately let you involve in a little bit of corruption. And by doing that, you can put a little bit in your pocket. But because I'm letting you do that, I now own you, okay? And if you want to go up the ladder, you get all the way to the top of Putin. When he came to power, he very ingeniously had his security forces go out and arrest major Russian organized crime figures and then release them. And by releasing them, he's saying, okay, I own you now. We do business. We do it my way.
Right. And this is not just Mr. Putin alone, right? Let's talk about his inner circle. He has a lot of people around him who are helping him at every step.
There is something in Russia, there's a term in Russia, it's called siloviki. The siloviki are people who came up through the security services like the KGB or came up through the military. And this is the inner cadre that Putin is at the top of. I had a conversation with the global head of Transparency International, Senior Jose Ungaz, and in that conversation, he described the Siloviki and their impact on Russian society.
It is known now that many of the former officials of the communist regime that knew how to move in the underground world of the Soviet Union and that had access to intelligence groups now have converted themselves and put all this intelligentsia in service of corruption. So they are stealing a lot of money and making a lot of dirty business in Russia.
What do you hope your coverage of corruption is able to accomplish?
Fighting corruption empowers people. It empowers the people at the most basic level in a state, in a society. If you have, for instance, massive amounts of money that are supposed to be assigned to public health, but the money is being stolen away through corruption, then the common people, the people of that country, are having their health care stolen from them, or their education, or their infrastructure, or this or that. So corruption violates the entitlement that people have to a decent life, to achieve something, to get somewhere. And corruption does engender terrorism. In countries where corruption is rampant and people have no piece of the pie, no place at the table, it is easy to turn to violence. It is easy to turn to the wrong thing because the system is so stacked. Why even play? Why even try?